Hi everyone, how are you? Good evening. It's so wonderful to connect with you all again. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. I hope this is going to be a fantastic year for you, 2021. I don't know how it's going to look out. I'm just going to turn off my Wi-Fi on my other phone so that the connection is going to be a lot faster. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to start today by talking about a couple of things really quickly. The first is this. Please wear your mask. That's the first thing I want to talk about. With COVID raging in Lebanon, it's definitely something I think we need to all be aware about. And I've just talked to so many people who don't have a very clear idea about how to wear masks. So I just thought, if you give me 1 minute of my time and your time to just share this information and make sure that everybody has the right information so that we won't face this problem moving forward. Please, when you wear a mask, you grab the mask by the ends. That's what we've been taught. Place it on the face. When it's clean, you can extend the mask, lock it at the top, and then you don't touch the blue area anymore until your day is done. So by the time you go out, you do your shopping, you do everything that you're doing, when you finish with the mask, you take the mask off with the ends like this, and then you dispose of it properly in a piece of garbage. Some people spray it with alcohol first to desanitize it, and then you throw it away, and that's how you wear a mask, usually, okay? However, what I see is this, and I don't understand it. Hey, Lake George, I want to tell you something. What is this? I don't understand this. What's the point of wearing a mask if you're going to do this every single time you talk to someone? Or this, what is this? The half mask. The half mask, where you're breathing out and you're just blocking your mouth. What's the point of doing that? I don't understand it. Or if you have your mask covered and you keep touching it or trying to correct it or fix it, and then you're like this, that's a sure way to catch COVID. Ladies and gentlemen, please, for the protection of your loved ones, for everyone that's around you, please wear a mask. I'm sorry about the live video being paused. I did do not disturb, but someone keeps calling me. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm sorry, I apologize about that. So anyways, masks are absolutely essential. If you're wearing a mask and you're around people and you dispose of a mask properly, you're pretty much going to be safe, more or less, okay? Another thing I'd like to talk about is that there are different types of masks. This is a cotton mask. I bought this mask off a Instagram account called Tagol, which is actually really cool. If you notice, it's a really beautiful mask. And the finishing work is so well done. It's not my choice to wear a cotton mask at all, because if you wear a cotton mask for a long time, the bacteria, I've been taught by doctors who are my friends, tends to fill up inside of this space. And so you really need to take it off the same way, using the ends, and then put it straight into the wash, and make sure you wash it at high temperature, and you also dry it at very high temperatures, okay? So why am I talking about this? Because to be very frank with you, the numbers in Lebanon are crazy. So for everyone living outside of Lebanon, globally, we're having a challenge with COVID. I think we all need to raise awareness to make sure that people are really taking the proper precautions and procedures, and at least wear the mask properly. Now, let's get into our topics for today. So what do we have on the schedule? What you guys sent me, of the many topics that I had received, what we're going to talk about today are three primary topics. The first is going to be guilt and the body. So what's the effect of guilt on our body? Again, I'm live on Facebook page, YouTube, and Instagram right now on another apparatus. We're also going to talk about how to be confident, and 3, reinventing yourself. So these are the words that you guys sent me verbatim. I didn't change them. I didn't adjust them. It always helps when you send me information to turn it into a clear and long and specific question, because I'll be able to serve you so much better. I also want to communicate to everybody here that when I talk to you and I share these thoughts with you, and you're sharing these thoughts with me, as we're having these honest conversations that aren't scripted, they aren't structured, they're not pre-prepared, they're not designed to be, some training session in a classic sense. I want you to know that it's very important to recognize that I'm talking to you as John. I'm not talking to you as John the coach. I'm talking to you as John as a person. Who is John? John is a person who has done a lot of research and a lot of studying in a lot of different areas of human behavior. And I have a lot of experience in these fields. I've been training, mentoring, and coaching for a very long time, very long time. So ultimately, yes, it's my honor and my privilege to have you all watching this show and being part of this program. But at the same point in time, I just want to point out, honest conversations about me and you engaging with each other in an honest, straightforward, and unlabeled way, as long as we're responsible for our conversations, without having to live under the structure of coach, trainer, mentor, none of that stuff, okay? I'm not here as a title, because as a person, when I'm a coach only in a coaching session. When I'm a mentor only in the mentoring session. When I'm a trainer, I'm only a trainer in the training program. But outside of it, I'm a normal human being, just like you, and my name is John. So that's it. So I just wanted to point that out, because sometimes people label us in the coaching industry or training industry or consulting industry, whatever it is, and make the assumption that we're always going to be performing at peak, which is not realistic and not sustainable. Now, I have a fun tool today that I added to my arsenal of educational and improvement tools. I know it doesn't sound like a big deal, but I'm going to tell you what it is, and it's a pen. So for those of you who are following on Facebook, Facebook Live, or YouTube, or for those of you who are Instagram, the Instagrammers are not going to be able to see if I draw anything on the screen, but I'll be able to share my screen. I'd also like to let you know that you can join this call live anytime during this session by going to my Instagram profile. There's a little link, and that link, you can click it. It'll invite you to StreamYard. You can choose to register without your name. You can keep your camera off. I don't mind. It's nice to have a conversation. And for those of you who are on Facebook, you have the link. On YouTube, you can also go to my Facebook page and you'll have that link. Okay, so ready to go. Thank you so much for giving me time to explain these things and just share these thoughts with you. Now, Malika, thank you. I've received a good afternoon from you. A good afternoon to you too, and everybody else. And hello to everyone who told me hi on Instagram. So let's start with guilt in the body. So let's kind of understand that it's not just about guilt in the body. Every emotion that we go through and we experience has an effect on the body. And there are different types of effects, and these effects have either a chronic, let's say, effect on our body, or an acute effect on our body. So the difference between the two is acute really means in the moment, and chronic means something that's continuously happening for a very long time, so it becomes part of our reality. Now, guilt is one of many negative emotions. So when we talk about negative emotions, and I don't want to call them negative because I think that's kind of a simplified term to it, but let's just say emotions that are hurtful or painful for us. When we talk about these emotions, a lot of times you'll notice that people kind of label these emotions as something evil. I don't think they're necessarily evil. I mean, some people tell me, John, do you think it's normal for people to have fear? Fear should be removed from us completely. And I think that if you take a look at case studies where a piece of metal, for example, for a gentleman who was working inside of a construction site, so a piece of metal fell from the top of the building, went right through his skull, damaged his limbic system, the seat of emotion, if you want, just to simplify. And what happened was that he had no emotional understanding of the world. He became deeply fixated in the frontal cortex, which is the logical mind. And he lost all motivation to do anything in life. And it was a very interesting study. You can research it, and you find that without emotions, we wouldn't really be driven to do many things. In my TED Talk a couple of years back, I was talking about stress and how stress is a great friend to us in the context of growth and perseverance. Yani, when we are stressed by the cold, we find ways to warm ourselves. We innovate. So I think emotions in the right way and in the right context can be very powerful in educating us and really giving us warning signals. So if you're driving your car and you look at your car's dashboard and a light goes on, like the engine light goes on, this is communicating to you that there is an issue. And with today, you can click on the engine light, it will tell you which fault in your car, like low tire, low oil pressure, I don't know, a gas cap needs to be adjusted, and so forth, electronic issues with the navigation system, so forth. The same system already exists in us in the body. And the objective of that system, whether it's guilt, fear, anger, anxiety, whatever it is to educate us and let us know that something is not okay and we need to pay attention to it. So if you feel guilt in the context of the moment, that's okay. And what do I mean by that? And please don't misunderstand me. I'm not pro for guilt, because I think over human history, and please stop me at any point in time, feel free to type and share and express. Okay, I love your comments. Your comments are going to help everyone else. So share comments and ideas, type. Okay, over time, the world has leveraged these negative emotions like fear and guilt and anger to drive and control us as human beings. So you'll notice the news is always driving us through or hurting us through the use of fear. And in the context of cultures, whether it's controlling parents or controlling environment, or even some contexts of religion, and I'm not against faith, I'm against when religion is misused, like everything else that can be misused, okay? You'll see that guilt has played a very big role, and its use has been implemented in a way to help us be better controlled. So let's kind of understand first where guilt manifests in the body. Now, I'm not an expert in this, so I'm not going to tell you that what I'm saying is 100% accurate. What I am going to tell you is that out of my own research and out of my own experience with guilt personally, and that of many of the people that I've worked with over the last 20 years, I've noticed that guilt tends to manifest mostly in this area, okay? But not from the front, but rather from the back. So sort of like a mix between lower and middle back. And you tend to see that the middle back itself is actually connected to the front muscles of the stomach. So sometimes you get that radial tension that goes from the middle back all the way to the front. So I've noticed very clearly that anger and fear tends to, come around this point right at the tip and the top of the stomach. And when you have guilt, okay, in the middle of the back, you get tight muscles, pain in the middle of the back, you feel a tightness there because you don't feel supported. Because if you think about it, when politicians greet each other, what do? You put your hand, I'm trying to do this on the camera, I'm not sure how to do this, behind the back of the other person as you tell them, tfaddal, or welcome, right? And you usher them in with your hand in the middle of the back. And so what that does is, in context, it's sort of like a support mechanism. You're saying, I support you, you're with me, okay? And so from that perspective, if you feel that you're having pains in your body and aches in your body, and medically you're completely fine, and you've checked, and you have that pain around this area and around the middle back area, okay, right around here, it's very probable that you're gonna have guilt, and with it, a couple of other emotions. Because I've never seen really guilt come to a human being on its own. I call them the favorite cousins. So you have guilt, and then you have anger, and you have fear. And they tend to come as a trio, hello. So you invited one, and the other two invited themselves as part of the process. Now, how do we deal with this? Well, first we need to understand the kind of guilts that we're going through. And there's a lot of different theories and philosophies about this. I can't tell you which is correct and which isn't. I can just tell you what I think about it, and then it's up to you to make that decision for yourself. But let's reflect on that, because this is honest conversations and reflection. So the first guilt that comes to mind is what I would call sort of like a guilt that happens in the moment because we did something wrong. So let's say someone was talking to me about someone, and as they were talking to me about that person, I really didn't like that person so much. So I went up and I just said something about them that I shouldn't have said. And suddenly I just felt that squeeze in my body, and my tightness in my breath, because I shouldn't really have talked about them. And that is a guilt in the moment. So that's the kind of guilt that we would experience if we did something wrong in the moment, and our consciousness and our value system and our belief system comes in and says, okay, you just did something that you wouldn't want anyone else to do to you. So what I call that is a reactionary guilt or a natural guilt. It's the kind of guilt that happens, okay, when you do something wrong based on your map of what's right and what's wrong in the world, or based on the social map around you of what's right and what's wrong. You just get that squeeze in your stomach, that tightness in your breath, and I wish I hadn't done that, okay, or told a secret or something like that. So in this situation, this kind of guilt is a good guilt because it's in the moment, it allows us to reflect on it, and at the end of the day, we can just sit back and say, okay, what have I done today that is great? And what have I done today that I could do better? And what should I have not done today? And you can think about that, digest it in the moment, and dump it, and move forward with it, okay? Even probably in the moment itself. I just see a couple of comments on Facebook, so I'll get to those in just a second. So let's take a look at these comments. Ritu, you're saying, thank you for sharing this. Never knew about this aspect of guilt. My pleasure. God bless you. Steve, one thing is dangerous though. Those who feel guilt after a transgression accept punishment readily, even punish themselves, like self-inflicted a naughty corner, especially guilt-prone people. Yes, that's the second type of guilt that we're going to talk about right now. Thank you, Steve, for highlighting that. I deeply appreciate it. The second type of guilt I would call is, let's try to give it a good name. The word is on the top of my head, but it's not coming to me right now. It's not an infused guilt. It's sort of like a programmed guilt, okay? And why I call it a programmed guilt, it's because that's the kind of guilt that you learn when you're a child, right? And you carry with you throughout time. And it's the kind of guilt that isn't always obvious above the water. So let's say I'm having a normal day, everything's fine, I'm super busy, I'm getting so many things done, then my day is done, I'm starting to relax, things are starting to calm down, my day is toning down, and then after that, I suddenly feel that emotion rise to the surface. It was always there, but now I'm aware of it because there's silence and I can feel the guilt, I can feel the pain, I can feel the anxiety, I can feel whatever kind of emotion exists within me, okay? That kind of guilt is a problem. And it definitely needs to be resolved, okay? Because that kind of guilt, as it increases chronically over time, it will lead us to some very bad decisions. So we'll talk about that in just a few seconds and how to get rid of it. So this kind of programmed guilt in transactional analysis is an awesome area of behavioral psychology, which I love. They talk about the adult ego, parent ego, and then child ego. In the child ego, you have a situation where you have an adaptive child, and that adaptive child is a child that is adapting to the environment and circumstances placed on it by its parents. So for example, if you're a boy or girl and all your life you had very controlling parents, or at least one of them was controlling, said, no, you shouldn't do this, or ghalat, or you're so wrong, or why did you do this? God will punish you. I don't know, different versions of, I don't know who will punish you. They just come up with different people that are going to punish you. Everyone's going to punish you. And what you learn is to conform. What you learn is not to understand why you made that decision and what is the impact of that decision on you and how to think about decisions that you make, but rather you learn, don't do this because if I do this, I'm going to get slapped and it's going to hurt. And in that way, what you're doing is you're sort of preparing your mind to easily accept when other people find you guilty. And then, like Steve was saying, to become ready to punish yourself for it, and in many different ways. And these kinds of applications, behavioral applications, I call them applications because it's just like going into Google Play Store and downloading an app. But in fact, as a child, you didn't really have the ability to say, this app doesn't work for me. So you got a couple of downloaded apps. If your childhood was a childhood with parental wounds, basic parental wounds, many times you can heal from it by seeing a therapist. I would highly recommend that. A psychologist, psychotherapist. There's many great fields of psychology that would be very beneficial to you, and that they can work with you, okay, individuals like this, to eliminate for you, to discover, find, and eliminate and heal these wounds so that you will no longer carry this form of guilt, and you'll discover and recognize how you took this guilt in, or these programs of guilt, from the environment around you, people who were in a parenting position, whether it's a teacher, people who influence you, grandfather, grandmother, father, mother, friend, whatsoever. However, there's probably one more type of guilt, which is, I think, social guilt, okay? So when people talk about the environment, for those of you who are aware of the impact of our impact as human beings on the environment, on Earth right now, on our choices, on the use of plastic, so forth. So we feel that guilt. And that's sort of like a realization that as human beings, we've really abused our home and we've really abused each other in the process of trying to live the best version of our life at the expense of everybody else. So if you put these three types of guilts together, you can reach a point during a day where the amount of guilt that you've brought in to your awareness becomes really high. So let's say your capacity for handling guilt is around half this bottle, and then you did a mistake, and then you recognize that the world is going in the very wrong direction. So that guilt increases, and then it overflows. And in this case, you will feel that pain, and you'll feel that manifested completely into your body, and it will be screaming in your body. Now, how do most people get rid of this? They go towards destructive behaviors. So they, do drugs. They find things that they're addicted to. They try to escape the world. They play video games, binge on Netflix, talk about people. So they always find something, keep them so busy. And a lot of times these individuals say, I can't live alone, or I can't be alone for a long time. That's because probably, I'm guessing, there are some emotions that you need to deal with and some realities you need to deal with that you're not okay dealing with. That's why a lot of times lockdowns can be very painful for a lot of people when you have to face yourself and there's nothing else to do, okay? So I would also say there's another dark side of guilt, which is if guilt is part of your childhood and it is chronic guilt, okay? I'm just calling that from my perspective to simplify things. It is possible that you will get yourself into something called the drama triangle. And the drama triangle is pretty much where we play in transactional analysis 3 different roles between victim at the bottom, doesn't matter if it's bottom or top, and then we have a hero or savior or a persecutor. So individuals who face a lot of guilt and then meet individuals who remind them of their guilt will lash out with aggression and anger. So their repressed anger just comes out. So let me make this as simple as possible. So if I was someone who was guilty, of stealing, let's say, and then I was around someone who kept preaching that stealing is bad, that person is reminding my brain of my subconscious guilt. It's bringing it to the surface. And so I will find a way to not be around that person or leave that person. So if people talk about people, so you'll meet someone, sometimes I meet people and they tell me, I just didn't like this guy. And I say, why didn't you like him? He's like, well, he has so many high principles. And so usually when someone tells me someone is too perfect or has too many high principles, it gets me to feel that those individuals are looking for, whatever's reflected in that person, how it reflects on them. And in that way, they are in context, being reminded of the things they don't like about themselves or the things that they're carrying with them that they have not resolved yet. So guys, coaching doesn't solve that for you. This is not a coaching problem. This is a therapy challenge. So coaches help you to go from where you are to where you want to be. It's not a coach's job to deal with childhood wounds or anything of the sort. So we have to be very aware of that, okay? And not let individuals do what they shouldn't be doing with you in your life. Now, how to let go of guilt? The first thing I would recommend is be aware of it. So if you feel a discomfort, I had posted a video a long time ago on YouTube and Instagram that talked about how you can recognize your emotions. And it starts with, I feel, and then you write the emotion that you feel. And then after that, the reasoning behind it. So I feel angry or I feel guilty because, and then you write why you feel guilty. And so as you become self-aware, as you start to ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? When was this triggered during the day? It's a little bit close to cognitive behavioral therapy, but there are ways for you to say to yourself, what am I feeling and what does this mean to me? Okay. When did I start feeling this way? Have I been feeling this way all the time? Or is this happening right now? What about the situation and the actions that I did is making me feel uncomfortable? Is it because it's against my belief systems, against my ethical, considerations, how I think ethically about the world, or what choices I want other people to do with me? So you kind of start to try to identify and become self-aware. Once you're self-aware, try to write down what you're experiencing so it's out of your head and in front of you. That way it's a lot easier for you to deal with it. If you're not someone who likes to write, then record a video of yourself. So grab your phone, say something to yourself, say, I feel guilty because blah, 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 and then watch it. Or voice record it to yourself. Or even better yet, if you have a good friend that helps you reflect, a friend that doesn't give you advice but actually listens and asks questions, then go to that friend and have a chit chat with that individual so they can work with you so that you can actually discover better what's going on with you. And once you identify that feeling, go and get therapy, because guilt, constant guilt, is something that therapy would definitely help in. Another thing I would like to remind you of, and this is my personal opinion as John, as a person, is that when it comes to faith and God, I've never seen a better understanding of God than the last couple of years of my life, where I've recognized that God is truly love. And in God's understanding of mistakes, okay, as human beings, we're gonna err, we're gonna make mistakes, okay? However, what's most important is what we do after that mistake is done, how we correct it, how we adjust it. So I can tell you, we all make mistakes. I've done lots and lots of mistakes in my life, and I will continue to do mistakes in my life, because making mistakes or having mistakes happen is part of the learning process. You know, on average, a child will fall 2,000 times before they take their first step. 2,000 times, okay? It's not a small number. So making mistakes, falling down, hurting people in the process is part of the natural way that we grow. Am I saying that we should? No. I'm saying take corrective action, you know, make sure that you are aware of these mistakes, and there's never too late to go back to an individual and say, I made a mistake with you, or I've made a mistake with a group of people, or I've made a mistake with myself. Because a lot of people tend to punish themselves and mostly have mistakes when it comes to dealing with themselves. So that's where guilt relies. We can go a lot deeper, but we don't have much time for that. I think I've covered a good chunk of 25 minutes on it, 20 minutes. So I'd like to move to the next topic. If you want to discuss this further with me, okay, feel free to send me a more specific question, and I'm more than happy to deal with that. Finally, there are some physical exercises that you can do to release guilt. If you go on Google and write how to release guilt from my body, you'll see lots of different, culturally different ways that you can do that, from breathing to imagination to, I don't know, yoga to dance. Dance is a great way. There's a friend of mine who contacted me before the session. I won't say her name right now. She's an expert in dance in the body out of, I believe, Amsterdam. And we were having a chit chat, and she might be a guest on the show sometime soon to talk about emotions in the body and expression of these emotions through the body. Something I think is really awesome. I don't have a lot of background on it, but we would definitely benefit with, I think, from listening to her. Finally, keep in mind that as we experience an emotion, chemically what's happening at the level of our brain is our brain and our body are releasing certain neurotransmitters. So whether it's cortisol or adrenaline and so forth, and these will affect our stress response. So it's really important to be able to recognize when we're feeling these types of emotions, guilt, anger, fear, and discover what is the source of it. And slowly you will be able to get rid of it. It's such a personal thing, so I think it's more of a case-by-case basis in order to solve that. Now, how to be confident? Moving on to our next topic. Lynn is saying meditation. Yes, meditation and mindfulness, these are all really great tools that help us get clarity, and then from there, we can deal with it a lot better. How to be confident? How to be confident? So many different things when it comes to confidence, so many different perspectives when people talk about confidence in general. But I'd like to approach confidence from a different angle, if you don't mind. And that angle is the following. Well, first, let me ask you this. Let's just make this fun so it's more interactive. Where would you rate your own confidence with yourself from 10? So 10 being extremely confident, 1 being not confident at all. I mean, just like horribly not confident. So where would you rate yourself from 0 to 10? Go ahead and drop me a number if you don't mind. We said this is honest conversation, so let's be honest with each other, okay? I can tell you that most times my confidence level is around 8.5 to 9, but I have some days where I feel I'm around 6. I never go below that. And there are some days where I'm feeling I'm like a 9.5. I think when you're in 9.5, you're kind of lying to yourself to an extent. I think it's natural to be around 8.5 to 9. I think that's a really good place, because more than this, I feel it becomes a little egotistical. So, you know, that's my opinion. So I just realized that the heater's still on and it's getting very hot in here. So give me 5 seconds. I'm going to go turn off the heater and I'll be back. And I'll just give you a couple of seconds to write down your comments on Facebook, YouTube. I want to hear from you. Come on. Instagram's on fire. What's going on, people? Give me 1 second. I'll be back. Perfect. Thank you so much for that. Such a pleasure. Let's fix my jacket so I look cool. All right. So I see a lot of numbers here. 9.5, 7, 8, 8, 9, 5, 6, 4, 9. You guys are awesome. I love the honesty. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's just about being honest. And that's okay if your confidence level is low. Sometimes it's completely fine. So let's talk about being confident. First, we need to understand what confident actually is. And confidence, I think, within context, is a feeling that we feel about ourselves. Most people tend to think, are you confident publicly speaking to others? Are you confident engaging others? Are you confident when dealing with a difficult situation? But I think to an extent, confidence is just a message that we send ourselves about ourselves at any given point in time. And it is a consistent dialogue that's happening between you and yourself. And it changes according to your environment. So I'm feeling pretty comfortable in the car. I feel very confident. Suddenly I see, I don't know, my ex-girlfriend who I really loved. This is an example, I'm just joking. With a boyfriend who is much better built than me, much better looking than me, much richer than me, much more, I don't know, whatever, successful than me. And obviously you're going to get a hit of like, not so confident right now. So if that tends to happen, then, and if you are affected by your outside environment greatly, not a little bit, we all get affected by our outside environment. No one's impervious to this. And if you are impervious to your outside environment completely, and impervious, I mean not affected by it, then something might be off. But if you are generally affected by your outside environment a lot, and your confidence isn't balanced at a specific score, but plays up and down a lot through the effects of your environment, then that means you're giving a lot of your power away to the world around you, right? And I think that we talked about this several times before. It all comes back to the way you measure yourself and who you allow to measure you. So in retrospect, one of the beautiful things about turning 30 and then turning 40 is that within a certain age bracket, you start to really recognize who you are as a person, what you really like in life and what you really don't like, at least, and what really matters. And you'll hear a lot of times that a lot of people say, COVID gave me a different perspective on life, or I went through COVID, I was very sick, and then I looked at life and I thought, wow, now I know what's important and what's not so important. So in this case, it's really important for us to remember that as we go through difficult situations in our life, our brain redirects where our energy and focus should be and what really matters and what was substantially the breaking point between being hurt and failing and living a good quality life. So when we talk about the way the world is run today, the world is run today on metrics. And these metrics are constantly measuring us and measuring our value, which is a fake value. And so in this case, I would say, do you think if a person has $10 million in the bank that they would be very confident or not very confident? I'm generalizing, okay? There are some people who could have $100 million in the bank and have a huge confidence issue. I'm not talking about the specific cases, okay? I'm talking in general. Do you think that having more money in the bank would give you more confidence? What do you guys think? And I'm going to read a comment from Steve. So Steve is saying, I'd like to touch on false confidence. For instance, LinkedIn may drive a false sense of overconfidence that one fits a challenging job, leads to rewrite a CV, resign a job, a very good one, and end up with a new job and you fail at it before even passing the probation. Culprit, false confidence. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly a great example. Thanks, Steve. I'm really appreciating your input. I mean, look, here's the reality, guys. The more we succeed in life, the more our brain rewards us with neurotransmitters that makes us feel more and more confident. It's a weird thing about the brain. Also, that is the same to be true in the opposite end of the spectrum. The more we fail at life, the more our brain releases more negative endorphins and neurotransmitters, making us feel less and less, lower and lower. So that's why when you want to get out of a tough situation, the only way to get out of it is to try things so you succeed and succeed and succeed to get yourself back to a position where chemically, biologically, and neurobiologically, your chemical environment has changed and shifted. Now, in simple terms, this is what I'm going to recommend for you. Sometimes I have to think in my brain to make sure that I don't speak very technically, because I want to make sure that I'm giving information in a very simple way. So when it comes to confidence, let's break it down into 3 core pillars. 1, how the world sees me. 2, how my friends see me or my close environment sees me. And 3, how I see myself. Okay? It is important to look at how the world sees me, because we live in the world. That's part of our social behavior, and we need to appreciate the world that we live in. It is important to understand how our friends see us, because those are the people we spend the most time with. And if they constantly tell us that we're not doing great or we're not, fitting the perfect matrix, that's going to affect us. And then finally, it's very important to see how I see myself. Okay? So when it comes to how the world sees me, I would say that it's the least important of the 3. And as you grow older, as you become more mature, as you go through more difficult situations, you start to rely less and less on how the world sees you. So what's really remaining is how our friends see us, our close environment, friends and family, and then how we see ourselves. And as you go through even more and more challenges, the weird thing is that the older you get, the more difficulties you go through, the less and less important it is of how anyone sees you but yourself. So the wisdom from elderly people who have gone through many challenges in their life is be happy with yourself and the world doesn't matter. Now, sometimes what do people do? They take it to an extreme. So they go, what matters is that I'm happy with myself and the world is garbage and I don't care about anyone. That doesn't mean that I stop respecting the world and how the world perceives me or how I interact with the world. What that does mean is that be at peace with yourself, okay? And then do the best that you can with the people around you. So what I'm saying is, if people are generally happy around you, you're going to have a lot of confidence. If people are generally feel good around you, you're going to have a lot of confidence. If you generally feel good around you, you're going to have a lot of confidence. If your family and friends feel good around you, you're going to have a lot of confidence, okay? A lot. I'm not saying you're going to be confident all the time. So what I've noticed is the best way to increase your confidence is to do what you believe is right with everyone around you in the way that you treat yourself. So if you treat yourself really well, then you're going to treat everyone else the way you treat yourself. But if you treat yourself really well, and then you don't treat your friends and family really well, they're going to go away. So you're eventually going to be left alone, and that's going to hurt your confidence. If you don't treat the world around you really well, and the world is constantly giving you signals like, you are a problem, or you're stuck up, or you're an issue, or you're dirty, so it's all feedback. How you take that feedback in and what you do with it is going to very much affect the picture that you have created in yourself, in your mind, about who you are and where you are in relation to that picture. So let me try to explain to you what I mean by this. In each person's head, okay, deep in their subconscious mind, there are 2 images. An image of what you perceive yourself to be and an image of who you are right now. And based on where these images play with each other, okay, we're going to have challenges. So for example, if the image in your head about yourself is here, and you see yourself to be a fantastic guy in your head, or a person or girl, and then where you are right now is here, you're going to feel like there's a lot of catching up to do. Well, sorry, I don't know how to do this on the camera. A lot of catching up to do, so you're going to feel lower confidence. If they're equal, you're going to feel pretty confident and comfortable with yourself, at peace. And if they're flipped, so if you are much better and you perceive yourself as much lower, you're also going to have low confidence. So it is really about your own self-perception. So here's some fun things to do. And I've done this many times before, and a lot of people know this who have been connected with me for a long time. I used to, several years back, at the end of every year, send a Survey Monkey link and ask people to fill it out and give me feedback about myself. It was so shocking to receive the information I received. I mean, sometimes the information was amazing. I'd have like 25 comments of people telling me, John, you've changed my life. You've done so much. You're such a sweet person. You're a great person. I learned so much from you, blah, 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 because it's all mostly on social media. And I have total respect for the feedback I got. I'm just saying, let me cut this short. And then I would get like 2 messages of, I hate you, or you're so stuck up, or you're so annoying, or you really hurt me. And then I would recognize, and the problem was this incognito. So I would sit there and think for hours, like, who is this person that was hurt by me? And so what I did is the next year around, I put the same survey and I said, please, if you have a problem with me, share your name and information. And I put that in the text because that way I have the opportunity to correct a mistake. And I used to feel so guilty a couple years back. I mean, I'm 40 now, turning 41, but before that, between the age of, I don't know, from my youngest age until probably around 32 to 35, I used to carry a lot of guilt, that toxic guilt, that chronic guilt, that guilt that is transferred over from your parents, from what people tell you about life. And I used to always feel so bad about myself. And so that guilt drove me to be wanting to be a hero and wanting to save people and help people. And that's what a lot of people do, because we think that's the solution. But in fact, as I got older and I started to understand myself, and I used to understand how God loves me unconditionally, and it is actually me who's standing in the way of my own love and my own development, I started to understand that as human beings, whoever told you that human beings are not supposed to make mistakes lied to you. Human beings always make mistakes. Always. I mean, today alone, I've probably done 50 and I'm quarantined. So the idea is that it's not so much the fact that we're doing mistakes. It's so much more how these mistakes are impacting others and how they are then impacting us and how we digest these mistakes. Because if every time I make a mistake and it drops my confidence level, okay, and I feel guilty about it, I'm just merging these two topics together, and I feel upset about it, and then I go into myself, what did I just do? No corrective action. I just felt sorry for myself, and I lived in my own poison, and I gave that poison more time, energy, and attention, okay? So think of it like this. Think of it like in the morning, you wore a clean t-shirt. And then during the day, you did a lot of exercise, you went out, you worked in the garden, and by the end of the day, you were sweating in the shirt. The shirt's dirty, it's full of mud and so many things. And then that's guilt, okay? And these are the decisions that we've done that are mistakes. And then you say to yourself, no, I can't take off this t-shirt. Or you take off the t-shirt, and then you put it next to your pillow and you sit and smell it the whole entire day. And you don't wash it and it's still moist and it's still disgusting. And then the next day you wake up, you're fresh, and you remember, oh my God, where's that t-shirt? Where's that guilt t-shirt? And you look around for it and you go, here it is. And then you put it back on again during the day and you sweat even more into it. I think you get the idea. And then you make it even more disgusting. And at the end of the day, you take it off again and then you start smelling it and you put it next to you and you look at it. And now it's just like a white t-shirt that's gone black. And you just do this every day. Is that logical? Would any of you do something so disgusting if it was a piece of clothing? The emotions and the choices you make are a piece of clothing that you have put on during the day when you made that mistake, and then you can take them off by the end of the day by reflecting, and then the next day decide to wash that shirt by correcting these mistakes, correcting your mistakes with others, and then coming back and saying, come here, I want to understand, teach me, I want to learn. And you'll find that if you're sincere, many, many times, people will react positively and you will help them heal from the pain that you caused them and the pain that you're causing yourself. That same situation occurs with you. If you talk down to yourself, if you're like, John, you're such an idiot, you're always making mistakes, you never do anything right, these types of conversations you have with yourself are so destructive for your value, your self-value, and your image of who you are, okay? So I think it really comes down to three primary things. The first is, one, I recognize that I'm imperfect as a human and I'm gonna make a lot of mistakes. On the counter side, I will use these mistakes as a learning experience, and as I gain a stronger muscle in a specific area, like I'm better in communication, I'm better in empathy, I'm better in patience and self-control, you adjust your behavior. The second thing that you can do is not just accept that we're human, we're going to make mistakes, but also say, whatever these mistakes are that I've done to others, or others have done to me, or I've done to myself, I forgive them. I forgive myself. Because the act of forgiveness is the act of getting out of your reptilian brain, moving to your prefrontal cortex, to a state of peace where you can think logically about the challenge that you just did and solve it. So forgiveness is the next key. okay? And the third key that I would recommend is to love yourself. And loving oneself starts off with acceptance and then gratitude for oneself and gratitude for God and all the blessings that we have received. Because if we look around us and we say, okay, I may have done one mistake during today, a big one, but what about all the good things I've done during the day, right? I've maybe done 3 big mistakes this week, but what about all the other good things that I've done during the week? So if you look at yourself as a whole balanced person, not through the lens of a mistake, then you will recognize that you're doing many different things that are of a lot of value, and your self-appreciation and your self-love for yourself will probably increase. Again, please remember, I'm not talking to you as a coach. I'm talking to you as John. These are some of my experiences, and that's where my brain is right now, and I'm just sharing with them. These are reflections, ideas. I hope I'm serving you well and you're enjoying this process. Lynn, thank you for all the hearts. Lynn, you're saying the brain believes everything you tell it. That's true. That's true. Imagination is a very powerful tool. So the only thing I want to raise here is, the problem with being right is that it very much depends on the lens that you're seeing the right through. So if you wear glasses where you believe that you're right about something and everyone else is wrong, you have this extreme mindset, then you're always gonna face problems with people. And this tends to be a mindset of people who are in the drama triangle, because you kind of say like, things are either black or white. No, they aren't. There are 100 million shades of color that God has created and that is available freely in the universe that we can use and experience, from nature to the colors we create digitally on a computer to whatever it is. Why is it that things have to be absolute in context? I can see my cheeks are red. Hold on. I'm doing it. Actually, I don't know why I'm doing that. This is very dumb. I can take off my jacket. See? Not so smart. All right. Oh, thank you. All right. Usually when I get on these talks, what happens is my adrenaline goes up. And so you obviously get a lot hotter. So finally, the last thing I want to talk about today is reinventing yourself. And there's not much time for this, but just really quickly, I'm going to touch base on this. I'm not very fond of the concept of reinventing yourself. I think it's more a matter of discovering all the beautiful things that are already in you by exposing yourself to the world and exposing yourself to new experiences and opportunities, because then you start to know yourself better. So before you worry much about reinventing who you are, I think it's a lot more interesting to think, and that's probably what it means, to rewire, rewrite, and adjust and question the beliefs that you have about yourself and the world around you. Because our beliefs about the world very much dictate our choices and our behaviors. So if you believe that the world around you is out to get you, if you believe that people are generally horrible or selfish, if you believe that you can't do it, if you believe that you're not good enough, all these beliefs are going to dictate how you experience the world and how and what energy or choices you put into the world itself in order to get the results that you want. So unfortunately, the world around us is constantly telling us we're not good enough. Why? Because I go on Instagram, I take a look at a post by someone else, a friend of mine, and I see that she has the perfect skin and the perfect color and the perfect clothes and the perfect body and the perfect. Or I look at a guy and he's just so happy and fun, or the perfect couple. The funniest for me are the couples, the perfect marriage. They're always happy and their posts are always incredible and they're always enjoying a perfect life. And that's okay. If you're using social media to post what you desire, there's nothing wrong with that. But just say that you desire that. The problem is that people are starting to accept this to be the truth. And then they look at themselves, they say, okay, I'm stuck at home, or I can't even afford to do this, or I can't afford to do that, or I can't, so I need to adjust myself and I need to catch up to the world. The world is so much more improving. People are making millions immediately, and I need to rush and catch up to the world. Hold on a second. The first thing you need to ask yourself is, how much of what you see on social media because that's how we're mostly communicating, is true. How much of the stories that people tell you about their successes and about their life is true? Because I can tell you right now, what I tend to see most in the world around me is that people want to lie about everything, not because I'm worried about lying being wrong or right, but so much more about feeling incomplete or not content with what you already have or with who you are right now in your life. So am I saying that you should be content, for those that are immediately going to question this, with yourself all the time and then you're not going to be motivated to do other stuff? No, I'm saying be self-aware, be grateful for who you are now, and recognize that you're always moving forward every day. You can make better choices every day, but you're never going to be perfect. Who even wants to be perfect? It comes at a price. Perfection comes at a price. And that price is usually that you're so worried about the result that you never end up enjoying the journey itself. So I've talked a lot today. I don't know, if I've answered your questions as best as you expected, because I didn't really have a clear direction. I was just told a topic and I wrote them down as they are. So I hope you enjoyed the session. Starting next week, as of tomorrow, I'm going to have a much faster internet connection, hopefully. So if you felt that the connection is breaking up certain points, this will be resolved. I've gone to a faster service provider, finally, and hopefully we'll be at 8 meg speed with a dedicated IP, so I should have no challenges with the connection. It'll give me the ability to do a lot more tools. Finally, I just want to tell you guys that I so deeply appreciate your time and your focus with me, because you're giving me the energy to do this. And when I get messages from you telling me, I really need to hear, you talk, or I need that perspective, I just want you to know that I heal and I grow as much in these live sessions as maybe some of you do, because we are in need to be connected and to express ourselves. And artists sometimes express themselves through paint, and I express myself through conversation, because that's the medium that's available to me right now. So I just want you to know that you are so valuable to me, and your presence in these series, okay, which are titled Honest Conversations, gives me so much happiness and joy that I can take a look and say, after 50 minutes, there are still, I don't know, around 50 people watching and interacting. And that in itself is a gift. And I have to be very grateful to you and to God for giving me that blessing and allowing me to be someone that you feel is worth those 50 minutes of your life. Okay? So thank you so much. Love you guys, and I'll see you next week. All right? Yalla, take care. Good night and farewell. Let me end this. Bye, guys, on Instagram. Here we go. Bye, everybody on Facebook and YouTube. Have a beautiful and blessed, and stay safe, stay safe, stay safe.